Well, here's a question that I don't even know if you can answer, but I'm asking anyway. Because you deal with the Bears, you know these folks. I follow the Bears. As you know, Cam, I'm a diehard Bears fan. I'm always mad at the team, but then I always forgive them and I watch the next game. It's pathetic. You texted me on the day of the draft. I was like, "Oh, this is it. This is it, Cam. They're turning it around." So I'm always in a state of denial and delusion. That said, I don't even know who runs this team. So who runs this team? Is it Kevin Warren, who is the president and sort of the man that was promoted as the guy who was negotiating with Mayor Johnson to bring a stadium to Chicago? Or is it the McCaskey family? Go ahead.
Well, I'll say this. It's hard right now. They're in a tough spot just from a business standpoint. I have been a fan, despite all of what I've said before this. I've been a fan of Kevin Warren. We first met when he was general counsel for the Minnesota Vikings, and the great Chicago Bear family friend of mine, Leslie Frazier, was the head coach there when Kevin was working in the front office. And I got to know him then through the Frazier family. I watched him really be a leader in realigning my home conference, the Big Ten Conference. Kevin really created this conference expansion. And to think about the Big Ten and how powerful it will be, especially in this new NIL era, a lot of that kudos should go to him. And he came in Chicago and began to do some things that Ted Phillips refused to do, which was meet with people, talk to folks, figure out the rhythm of the city. Ted Phillips, as far as I'm concerned, did not really care about that when it came to Chicago. But Kevin was going out to high schools and meeting high school coaches, and every civic social event, whether it was the Urban League dinner or something that Choose Chicago, I would see him there. And I was really proud and still am proud of what he was doing there, because the Bears had been absent and silent for so long. He finds himself in a tough spot, right? Trying to work in this really fractured political landscape to make things work. I know he's got consultants and folks who are telling them the way to do things, and I think they've missed the mark in some ways. And then the family is, still grieving the loss of their matriarch. Virginia, while small in size, was larger than life when it came to the business and the football operations of that team. And so they're at a bit of I guess the word is interregnum, right? Trying to figure out how this team and this family and this organization moves forward, which does not make the pursuit of this stadium deal any easier for them.
And I saw in some paper today, I think it was the Sun-Times, you're urging the Bears to still consider the Michael Reese site.
Yeah.
And so the Michael Reese site, folks, you got to know this. We've already invested, we meaning the taxpayers of the city of Chicago, have already invested over $100 million in this site. There used to be a hospital at roughly 23rd in the Lake, Michael Reese Hospital, and went out of business. The city bought it up to tear it down to put the housing for the Olympics that Chicago didn't get. And so the city's been trying to figure out what to do with it ever since. And various plans have not worked out. Why do you think this would be a suitable site for the Bears stadium? Go ahead. Well,
first off, I'll say that the historic nature of that site, being in the Bronzeville community, I'm a homer. That is my neighborhood. But also, I think about the history of what was supposed to be there with the Olympic Games. Had they come to Chicago, there was supposed to be Olympic Village, right? That's why Mayor Daley bought that site some 15 or so years ago. I think about Michael Reese Hospital in particular, which was really, I think, nationally an example of Blacks and Jews combining to fight oppression, right? I mean, that was one of the only places in the country where you will find, the ability for Jewish doctors to work in a place and Black patients to be able to be seen. And there's a real history there that I think we often forget. And lastly, I think it's some of the best real estate probably in the country. When you look at the fact that we've got this beautiful lakefront, 26 miles of unencumbered lakefront, And we've got these two big gaps there, right? So you got Michael Reese and then Southworks. That if you can compare it to any real estate in the country and maybe the world, and it's top notch. And so the ability to be a hub and to be a gateway between downtown and the neighborhoods, Bridgeport, Bronzeville, Pilsen, it being right there, I personally would just hope the Bears could look harder at that. But also, I think stadiums should be economic drivers and economic engines, right? The cool thing about Chicago is not just that all of our ball clubs play within the city. That's a big deal. No one else has that right now. But the other piece of it is that all of them are in their distinct neighborhoods, and they're a part of that community, right? Unlike Philly, where you've got 3 stadiums in a row in a parking lot. These stadiums are all in a community and bring some character to those places. And so, I just, once again, Michael Reese is a spot that I'm high on, but the Bears have to figure out what works for them.
Yeah. Do you buy their objections? I personally don't.
I'll tell you what, you probably heard me say this before about other things, but I just want to remind folks that at the turn of not this century, but the century before this one, we found a way to reverse a river, right? And so someone telling me that a place is too narrow for a stadium is not enough for me to believe that.
I go with you 100%. And I'm very skeptical about what people say. There's usually a different motive, if you will. And I will say this. I'm reading between the lines what you're saying. Look, Bears, you bought that Arlington Heights Stadium, you tore racetrack, you tore it down. You should have just gone with that. I don't know why you did this like fake reversal. I think you called it in your tweet a reversal or something like that. I guess a football play or something. I just don't. It makes no sense. You don't have the support for it. You could probably cut a TIF deal with Arlington Heights and fund your stadium. Let the Arlington Heights taxpayers pay for it. The state has shown no interest in it, and they're still talking about property tax. This is a line. Cam, use your influence, please, with the press corps. Stop calling it a property tax certainty. It's a property tax cut, okay? And they're raising everybody else's property tax to pay for it. Every time the reporters call it a property tax certainty, it's like a euphemism for the Bears. I'm like, guys, they don't employ you. You don't work for them, all right? So stop property tax certainty. Go ahead, Cam.
I'm glad you said that, Ben, because that for the folks who keep pushing this quote unquote property tax certainty thing, I just want to remind people that the money has to come from somewhere. Someone has to pay. Like, property tax money is like energy, right? It can't be created, it can't be destroyed, it can only be transferred. Somebody's going to end up paying for that, right? That's number one. And number two, because of our still archaic school funding formula here in this state, I hope that the parents in Arlington Heights understand what this property tax freeze would mean for the schools that their kids go to. That's a big deal. Is this football team worth doing that to the coffers of the school districts there? Lastly, Ben, I'm just reminded, I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I'm gonna get in trouble here on what the hook here is, but I'm reminded of the summer of 1995 when I was 10 years old. It was that super hot summer that we had in Chicago, and we had, unfortunately, a lot of people passing away. I got really upset with my parents, and I decided I was running away from home. I was going to move, and we had a bowl near the front door with a bunch of the old school CTA bus tokens, right? That's how long ago this was. Yeah. I grabbed a handful of tokens and I got on a 103 because we lived off 103rd and Vincennes, and I headed east, and I was going to start a new life at 10 years old. And I got around to 103rd and King Drive and realized that I didn't have any money. And so I had to come back home. Chicago Bears are now realizing that those tokens that they grabbed out the door are not enough. And they don't have the money to fend for themselves right now. And there are some things they could do as far as like selling shares and private equity that it doesn't seem that they're ready to do, that they were relying on the state to do for them. However, the bank here is closed, right? And so we'll see if they'll get back on the bus going the other way and have a conversation about how they can be a better steward of taxpayer dollars and a better neighbor here in the city of Chicago.
So that is a great anecdote. and it is what they call a parable. And I know the Bears are taking notes and listening and thinking about it. Kevin Warren right now is pondering that one. And I'll point out one last thing before we leave the stadium, move on to other matters. Guys, your lease is good until when?
2032.
2032. It's there's nothing wrong with Soldier Field. I'm sorry, guys. You're going to be measured by how you do on the field, not what the field looks like.
Yeah.
And you got an advantage. We're going to get to you had an advantage. Minnesota plays in a dome. They can't handle this cold. Okay, the Packers, they can. You got a little troubles with the Packers. But a lot of these teams with the domes, you have an advantage. You should take advantage of your advantage. Stop crying already, all right? God, your Bears aren't supposed to cry.
Soldier Field is a much better place to watch football when they're winning.
Absolutely. Who cries more, the Bears about their stadium or Luka Doncic? I don't know. That's Cam, you're going to have to – Luka, every time I look at him, oh, they didn't call it. He remind me of the Bears, Luka. Stop crying so much. All right. Before we leave football, I got to ask you, a football fan, this one. This story is blown up in the papers and every talk shows and sports talk show. I'm laughing my head off. There's a book come out. I actually don't even know what the book is about, but there's a section about Caleb Williams and how he didn't want to play, or his dad didn't want him to play for the Bears. And I don't blame Papa Williams at all. Bear quarterbacks, I can't think. You got to go back to Sid Luckman, I think, to have like a really that's way before my time, much less Cam's. An outstanding Bears quarterback. I love Jim McMahon. He got injured too much, but he was. So I'll concede McMahon. So it's known as the place where quarterbacks go to die. So I don't blame him for being uncertain about it. On the other hand, Cam, it's an old story. I mean, we all knew about this a year ago, and now they're making a big deal about it. Do you think, as a former football player, played the game, you think this is going to be a problem? Like, are other Bears going to be mad at Cam because he didn't want to play there? Or, excuse me, Cam, I'm looking at you. Caleb, because he didn't want to play there? Are they going to be mad at Caleb because he didn't want to play in Chicago? Go ahead.
No, I don't think so. And we live in a different era, right? This version of the NFL where guys got choices, and it's only going to increase, right? Because now guys even have choices in college, right? You got guys who transferred 2 or 3 times with the new transfer portal and NIL. And so, no, I don't think so. I think once you lock in with a team and you decide that you're going to be there, the guys expect for you to play like that, right? And so I'm less concerned with whether or not Caleb wanted to wear orange and blue. What I'm mostly concerned with, it was the fact that last year he got sacked 68 times. And so my question is not whether or not he wants to be a Bear, but the guys in front of him, whether or not they want him to be a Bear or even a player in this game. And so, I think that's some of the off-season small talk that people like to ramp up in order to get people excited about the season. I don't make much of it.
Do you think the line got better?
I hope so. On paper, they're better. And I will say in Ben Johnson's offense, you got to have O-linemen who can both block and move. And so I'm excited about what I've seen so far, both in the offseason, the free agency pool, as well as what I saw in the draft. And hopefully they're getting those guys together, and we'll see a much different result.
All right. So you're excited about the possible prospects for this year's Bears.